You okay? 평생 반성하면서 살았어야지.
From the final fateful season of The Crown to an Indonesian period romance and a South Korean criminal justice drama, it's a very international month in the world of TV series, and Dheepthika Laurent is here to take us through it. Let's start then with The Crown.
Yeah, it's a big anticipated release of the month, Eve. The Crown this season, season 6, culminates with one of the saddest moments in the British royal family. Of course, that's the death of Princess Diana. This season will also take a look at Prince William and Kate Middleton's early courtship. The season, though, does open on Diana's death in Paris and then takes us 8 weeks back prior to her fateful meeting with Dodi Al-Fayed on his billionaire father's yacht. Take a look.
Don't really understand how I ended up here. Dashing around. And losing sight of myself in the process. You know, I think that's been the story of my whole life.
I'm afraid, Your Majesty, interest in the princess's private life is unlikely to die down anytime soon.
The press are on our tails constantly.
All one wants is for that girl to find peace.
There, a glimpse of The Crown. The first 4 episodes are released this month, the final 6 next month. You've seen a bit. What are your thoughts?
Well, I would say the word that comes to mind is binge-worthy. It's definitely one that you will binge. The soundtrack is also a lovely nod to 90s Britpop, Eve. But, and this is something we talked about, what makes this season different is that, at least for my generation, those who are in their 30s and 40s today, this season will feel most like the one that we've lived through and not the one that we've heard from through our parents. You know, Charles and Diana's divorce, Camilla, Diana's death, William and Kate. This season also has a lot of anticipation around how they treat Diana's death, how it was filmed. They won't actually show the actual crash, but rather allude to it and then deal with the aftermath. You know, those who love The Crown will love this season, I think. But it will also offer plenty for critics to pick apart, too, particularly for those who already feel like Netflix is taking great liberties with the truth about the British royal family. You know, some examples, for instance, the last phone call that Diana had with William and Harry. According to a 2007 documentary, it was very brief and hurried, but in the show it's far more drawn out and emotional. There's also another controversy that's Diana's ghost that appears to console Charles and Queen Elizabeth. Very bizarre. That ghost sort of appears after her death. According to the British press, Prince William reportedly would have been sickened by this scene. He's also reportedly never watched the show. Casting-wise, Elizabeth Debicki is, you know, just astounding in her portrayal as Diana, both in her mannerisms and also the physical resemblance.
Okay, well, at the premiere in LA, the actress Elizabeth Debicki talks about the weight of playing the last part of Diana's life, her death being a tragedy that touched so many people around the world.
I couldn't have done it without Khaled, who plays Dodi. I think the two of us just held each other through that. Some days coming to work was incredibly painful and sad, and you just have to keep in the front of your mind the responsibility you feel to tell the story as honestly as you can.
Elizabeth Debicki speaking at the LA premiere. The actor Khaled Abdallah plays Dodi Al-Fayed, an Egyptian son of a billionaire who died alongside Diana in the Paris car crash in 1997. Speaking at the premiere, he used his platform to call for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas conflict.
How many Arab characters can you think of in film who you get to know and who then die? And because you've fallen in love with them, you mourn them. So few, despite the number of Arab bodies who have died over my lifetime, been murdered and slaughtered in war and so on. And that's also one of the reasons why I have this on my hand.
And while we're talking about the Middle East conflict, a high-profile Israeli producer who works on the series Fauda has died in combat in Gaza, hasn't he?
Yeah, that's right. Matan Meyer, a producer with Netflix's hit show Fauda, was also a reservist soldier. He was killed in combat in Gaza. Now, Fauda, the show, has made a name for itself depicting elite Israeli soldiers hunting down Hamas terrorists. A rather controversial show, though, because critics say it is overwhelmingly pro-Israel and that it glosses over the decades-long conflict.
Okay. Well, let's move on to something very different now. Disney Plus has released a new South Korean drama called Vigilante. It's about a young police recruit masquerading as a justice delivering vigilante at night.
Yeah, it's actually called Vigilante, based on a popular webtoon. This crime drama is from showrunner Choi Jong-yeol, who was actually behind the hit Netflix show Startup. He actually reunites with Startup's lead actor Nam Joo-hook, who plays a talented police recruit who moonlights as a vigilante at night, taking revenge on criminals who've gotten away with horrendously lenient sentences. Take a look.
법의 처벌이 합당했는가?
뭐 돈이 없어? 그 짓이야?
반성하고 있는가?
넌 또 뭐야 이 새끼?
지금부터 널 풀어준 법을 원망해. 내가 지옥을 보여줄게.
뛰어난 지능, 치밀한 계획, 단호한 범행까지 우리를 아주 잘 아는 놈일 수도 있겠어요.
It looks extremely intense.
It is very intense. It's very much a dark hero show. Kim Ji-young, this lead character, his vigilantism bred from a traumatic childhood event. The premise of the show is not particularly original, but it does deliver biting commentary on the cynicism of our society, ratings-hungry journalists, but also the leniency of judges. Fans of Nam Joo-hook will be very happy with his performance as this sort of brooding dark hero. Great use of music, nighttime, and shadows to create that sense of foreboding. And also what's interesting is some of the cases have been inspired from real-life Korean cases, like, for instance, the release of a convicted child rapist 2 years ago that actually sparked widespread protests around the country.
Okay, interesting stuff. Also on Netflix, Cigarette Girl is an Indonesian romantic drama set during the 1960s at the height of the herbal cigarette business called Kretek cigarettes, and that is getting some positive reviews, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It was created by Iva Isfansia and Camila Andini, the latter of whom actually is one of Indonesia's leading filmmakers. Now, Cigarette Girl is a 5-part ill-fated love story between the daughter of a Kretek cigarette empire, her name is Jengya, and a worker, Labas. The show crisscrosses between their epic romance and then through flashbacks decades later when a dying Labas commissions his son to find out what happened to the love of his life. Kretek is actually a special blend of tobacco and cloves. It was introduced by European explorers into Indonesia in the 17th century, but it enjoyed a renaissance in post-war 1960s when the government actually heavily invested in the industry and it became a veritable competitor to foreign cigarette brands, Eve.
Okay, well, let's take a look at Cigarette Girl out this month.
Kamu ingin tahu apa yang sebenarnya terjadi, tapi di satu sisi kamu juga takut buat ngadapin.
Siapa lagi yang tahu soal ini?
Saya harus menceritakan semua yang sebenarnya terjadi.
So it's against this backdrop that Cigarette Girl takes place. And what do you make of the series?
Well, it's beautifully shot, beautifully acted, great soundtrack that really amplifies the emotions of the series. If you're looking for, Bridgerton-like sex scenes, you won't get it here. It's very chaste. But the 5 one-hour episodes are a perfect binge. The rich girl, poor boy theme could have easily been a cliche, but it isn't because the series uses this to explore themes of female empowerment and this thriving Kretek business during a period of political turmoil with the arrival of Suharto in Indonesia, one of the 20th century's most brutal dictators. My only criticism would be that there's not enough of an explainer about that period. This series would have greatly benefited from perhaps a director's note at the beginning, giving us that context, especially for foreign viewers who don't have a great understanding of Indonesian history.
Okay, and Cigarette Girl also premiered at the Busan International Film Festival in South Korea in October as part of a special spotlight on the Indonesian film and television industry, getting more and more international attention. Now, moving on, finally, a hit 2010 film based on a graphic novel is getting a much anticipated Netflix anime adaptation.
Yeah, the anime series Scott Pilgrim Takes Off comes out on Netflix this month. Michael Cera and Kieran Culkin are among the original cast of the 2010 film Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, who will be reprising their characters for this anime series. The film and TV show are both based on the 2004 graphic novels by Brian Lee O'Malley. He himself who is an executive producer on this series. Scott Pilgrim Takes Off follows this lovable slacker musician from Toronto who falls in love with the girl of his dreams, Ramona Flowers. But to win his love, he has to first win over her 7 evil exes, a quirky bunch including Japanese genetic roboticist twins and a vegan rock star. Eve, the series is very much a love letter to fans of the Scott Pilgrim universe, but I think it might garner some new fans along the way.
Okay, Dheepthi, thank you so much for telling us about this month's releases. We're going to leave you with Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, out on Netflix this month. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Let's party.